broad. Such objective is broad, despite the fact that map of Nigeria is specific. That is the subject matter. So if the behavior is broad and the subject matter is broad, that objective is a broad or general objective. If the behavior is specific, but the subject matter is broad, that objective is also broad. If the behavior is broad, but the subject matter is specific, that objective is also broad or general. So for an appropriate objective, both the behavior and the subject matter must be specific. Now, for instructional objectives show teachers' activities. For instance, if a teacher writes to teach learners how to titrate, who is the person that is teaching? It is the teacher. In our objectives should reflect the behavior we want to manifest in learners at the end of the lesson. The behavior we want learners to exhibit at the end of the lesson. So not teacher-related objectives. So in that case, the first two types of objectives are not recommended, are not allowed to be stated by the teacher. But the last two, specific and behavioral. An objective is behavioral when it shows the behavior that learners must exhibit at the end of the lesson. And the objective is specific if the behavior is specific and the content is specific in scope. Both of them must be specific. So in stating specific objectives, the teacher should use action verbs, activities that you can see learners performing. For instance, at the end of the lesson, students should be able to pronounce, students should be able to mention, students should be able to write, students should be able to describe, students should be able to explain. If they are describing, you hear them describing. If they are explaining, you hear them explain. If they are writing, you see them writing. So observable objectives, observable behavior is what is expected by the teacher, what is expected from the teacher. And then the content itself must be specific. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to write or to draw map of Nigeria. Students should be able to mention the physical features of Nigeria. Not students should be able to understand features of Nigeria. Understand is broad. Features of Nigeria are broad. Is it economic feature, political feature, physical feature? Which feature? So must be specific. So that is about objective. Now in going to teach, the teacher must identify the entry behavior or previous knowledge of the students. That is what students, the idea students have that is related to the topic you are going to teach. No topic under heaven that students will not have. However faint it is, they must have an idea about the topic. So the teacher has the responsibility to think of what the learners might have known that is related to the topic. For instance, a teacher that is going to teach, let's say, democracy or election in the class. What entry behavior, what previous knowledge will students will have heard about election? We should not forget that students might have been electing their class captains or class representatives. That is election. So you can simply state there that students have been electing their class captain, hence they have knowledge of election. So you state that one there. It's a statement of what students, the idea students have that is related to what you are going to teach. In some cases, the topic you are going to teach may be related to the previous topic you have taught them. So the teacher can state that students have been taught so, or students have learned so. That is the first topic, the previous topic, which is related to this one. Peradventure, the previous topic is not related to the new one you are going to teach. Then you think of any other knowledge they might have had that is related to this new topic you are going to teach. That is previous knowledge or entry behavior. Then, very essentially, the teacher must state the instructional materials he is going to use to teach. What are instructional materials? An instructional material is any material the teacher brings to the classroom to make the teaching and learning more understandable, faster to learn, and easier to teach for him. Material that he is going to use to further explain what he's going to teach. It can be a real object. It can be improvised material. It can be pictures. It can be charts. Any object that the teacher is going to bring as well. Then instructional materials, when any instructional material that the teacher is going to use in the class must have some characteristics. One, it must be available to all students. It must be reachable to all students. It means every student in the class must see or hear whatever you are going to. If it is a chart, for instance, and it's placed on the wall in front of the class, every student, the last student in the class must be able to see what is drawn on that chart. And if there are prints on the chart, he must be able to read the prints. The print must be visible to him. So it must be reachable to all students. It must be relevant, it must be related to the topic the teacher is going to teach. We don't just bring instructional material to the class for bringing sake. It must be relevant to the topic we are going to teach because we are going to use it to explain that topic. The teacher must use instructional material appropriately. How do we use instructional materials appropriately? You introduce it to the lesson lesson when it is time for it, and remove it immediately after use. If it's something you cannot remove, if it is going to waste your time, you can cover it up. Why do we say you should cover it up or remove it? Because after using the instructional material, if you leave it there in front, some students may continue to focus their attention on the instructional material and they will not follow the lesson again. That is why it is advisable that you remove the instructional materials immediately after use and then continue with your lesson. If you want students to learn more about the instructional material after you have used it, you can display it at the back of the classroom after the lesson or at the side. Now, I want to advise that instructional material should not be displayed in front of the classroom after use, because when instructional materials are displayed in front where the learners can have access to it, they may not concentrate. Even if it is a new topic, they may not concentrate. Their attention may be on the instructional material in front of them. So it is advisable that even if we want to display instructional materials in our classroom, materials that we are not using for teaching, it must be either by the side walls or at the back of the class, so that they will not attract the attention of learners when we are teaching. That's about instructional material. Another major subheading is the reference material. The reference material means the sources or the source or sources of your information. The books you have contacted. If it is online, you indicate the site where you have obtained that information. It is advisable that the teacher contacts as many sources as possible, because the students who are teaching nowadays, they are exposed to many media. They can obtain information anywhere. So the teacher must get prepared. If you read wider, they will be able to provide more information for learners. Now, the extent of indicating the sources of your information